Hey, what's up? This is gonna be a real quick video. I'm just gonna talk about the core committee. The core committee is the Campus Operations and Innovation Committee for the Student Government Board of the University of Pittsburgh. A lot of words, but that's what core is. And I am the liaison to that committee. So what's the liaison? There's a chair and there's like board members of the committee. I'm kind of like the bridge between the committee and SGB, the executive board, because I sit on the executive board of Student Government Board. A lot of words, but that's like kind of the formatting for how the team works. But all that aside, what I really want to talk about is my vision for Corey and how I want to kind of approach it. It's still kind of in the draft phase because we're trying to get all the members on the team aboard first before we set into a concrete vision. But I do think it's important to have like seeds of ideas and stuff like that. What I really want to do with Corey is kind of I want the University of Pittsburgh to be a place where it's much more it's the following step from the theory of computer science. It's the following step of the theory of technology. We actually see that technology embedded in the school, right? I think to relate that in a different way, if you could imagine a school is more technically advanced when it comes to teaching computer science and the theory of it, like all that, or the research side of that, I want the University of Pittsburgh to be the school where the students are taking that theory into reality, right? It's making that theory practical and say, okay, here's a really cool system, or how here's a cool system how students can interact with maybe administration in the school, right? What the I want the University of Pittsburgh to be is where we take that system and we quickly implement it. Um, I think it's hard to do, right? It's hard to do because that's a lot of change. Like technology advances rapidly, and schools, it's like education is the one system that does not do that. Like if you could think of any system in the world, like education is probably top five and how slow it moves sometimes. Um, but and that's for good reason because you also technology when it first comes out, it's nowhere is the best. There's bugs, there's problems, and you just never know. With education, you want to have a solid foundation, so you have to actually do the research, see like how does this actually play out, and that research takes years to like see the actual results from the hypothetical or all that. But that aside, I think I want to regardless of how practical it is, I want that to be how the University of Pittsburgh operates, where we kind of like take all that theory and make it practical. I know I keep on saying that, but that's like the fundamental idea. And how I see that happening is like even from a student government board side, where you saw the stuff I was working on with Rio, building an SGB retrieval augmented generation agent to help people understand the funding process with SGB. I want more students to be building tools for the school to implement. Right. I think the trick here is to not make everything official. Because the officiality, if that's a word, the officiality of a tool does not matter so much so the usage of the tool. Right? So let's say everyone in the school is using a tool. It doesn't have to be endorsed by the school. As long as people are using it and it works, then that's good enough. I think that's where the ace in the hole, whatever phrase I can't think of a good phrase to really explain this, but that's where the ace in the hole for this whole idea comes from. In the sense that I think if I can get a bunch of people to build a bunch of stuff and get people to see, okay, hey, this is actually something that can help me out a lot, and use those tools, then that's how we could have University of Pittsburgh be a much more school embedded with technology and tech ideas and all that. I do think I'm interested in like startup culture. I think CMU, University of Michigan, and Georgia Tech, they all have great startup cultures. From what I've seen, I don't know if I just the University of Michigan there for some reason, but I don't think I could build that throughout this year. I think one of my initial ideas was to support student businesses, not just in the tech space, but in the student business space, through having an application and an app that kind of hosted those services. Say, hey, I'm looking for a so and so service, come here and see. But I don't think that's gonna work because it feels kind of like I don't know. It feels almost like a marketplace for everything. And I don't think if I'm a student, I'm gonna go to that service. I don't think students are gonna go there and use this. I don't think. I think the intention is great, but I don't think the execution will work out. Um, but I do think it's an interesting app idea for the school is having some sort of data collection app. And by data collection, I mean just quick surveys. One of the biggest things we struggle with in the SGB, the school administration is actually getting people to do surveys. However, I was thinking after seeing one of Google's apps for this thing where like you do service collect so they can have like a better idea of different topics and then they give you like Google points. I think if we could do that as a school, but we give we don't give money, but we give like actual like dining dollars or like pit currency to students to use within the school economy. That would be really quite. I think that could really be a good incentive for people to answer quick surveys. My only worry is that people might be incentivized to just rush to the surveys and give garbage data for the most part. But I do think it shows promise in the idea that I don't think it's so complex to build, and it could be something that like it helps out a lot because data we have a big gap between students like what students want and what we can do. Data is basically the thing, one of the key components we need for a successful school. Uh, and then kind of going to my last point before I end this video, I think one of the stuff I've been worrying about is how are these tools going to be built. However, in the age of vibe coding, regardless of how you feel about it, I do feel tools and apps and services can be built much faster. They do pose security risk, but I do think those can be properly handled in a fair amount of time. So I really want to try and see how I can get more students to do that. I think one of the initial ideas for that is to have a hackathon of sorts, where student government board hosts a hackathon for students to build tools for the school. And the idea is like, okay, whoever wins this hackathon maybe gets like $1,000, maybe they get like extra credit or something like that. Um, and yeah, I think if I can do that, that could be a start of building a culture, building more tools for the school. Pitt does. I think that's what Pitt kind of shines with our computer science students, that they like to build stuff. They like to build tools that are actually used by people around the world. For example, we have a GitHub repo for internships that like is used across the world, which is really cool. But if I can get that to be even more internal in the sense that people are building it for the school, not just for computer science students or like data science students, but like for all students in the university, that would be really awesome. But yeah, that's a vision. That's the vision. Really, what I'm happy about is that it does seem to be something that me and the chair of the committee do seem to share similar hopes for, in the sense of this vision does seem like something exciting, be it in building apps or maybe becoming more tech focused. So I'm excited. I really am. I really just want to kind of see what I can do with the school. But yeah, that's pretty much the draft idea. So I'm obviously going to be talking about it a bit more from now to when Project Phillips ends. But I'm excited. But besides that, I have nothing else to say. So have a great day.